The board will now come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Here. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Devoti. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Cox Antwi. Alderman Browning.
Present.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Here.
Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus.
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Present.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Boyd. 13 present.
A quorum being present, we will be led in an opening reflection by Norman Akers with the Osage Nation.
Good morning. I want to thank you for inviting us here today. And this morning when I got up, I was looking out the hotel window and it was looking towards the east, and that sun was coming up, and it was very kind of a salmon pink color. And on the horizon, I happened to notice the dome and the architecture of the city. And for a moment, when I was looking at that dome, it reminded me of a mound. And our Osage, our Wajaji people, the morning is a very special time for us. It's a time that we get up and we pray and we speak to Wakanda. And one of my thoughts that happened when I was there was that our ancestors lived in this area. They breathed the air, they drank the water. And this place is sacred to us. The urban sort of experience from many, many hundreds of years ago, when there were hundreds of mounds here in this area, has been kind of replaced with the city now. But one thing is that we're still here as Osage people, as indigenous people. And I just wanted to say thank you, to the Board of Aldermen. And I also wanted to say thank you for Counter Public. And likewise, Joan Heckenberg and Kappa Psi fraternity, because what you've done is you've sort of helped us kind of maintain our history, and that's been very important for us. And basically, I just wanted to say these few words to you before you started your meeting. And again, thank you for everything that you've done for our people. Okay, and we look forward to having a continued working relationship with this area. Again, thanks from the Osage Nation, the Osage Historic Preservation Office, and just a many thanks from Osage people in general for your assistance with helping us take care of our history.
We will dispense with the regular order of business to take up the first reading of resolutions in reference to committee calendar. Alderwoman from the 8th, you're recognized on the motion to suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Resolution 109.
Madam President, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules to introduce Resolution 109.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 8th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 11th, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Resolution 109. This is a non-debatable motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Aye. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderman Devoti. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Cox Antwi.
Aye.
Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge. President Green,
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. 14 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 8th. Madam Clerk, if you could place Resolution 109 at the beginning of the first reading of resolution calendar.
So noted.
Alderwoman from the 1st, you are recognized on the motion to suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Resolution 111.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the board. I move to suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Resolution 111.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 1st, seconded by the Alderman from the 2nd, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Resolution 111. This is a non-debatable motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Devote. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Cox Antwi. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. 14 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 1st. Madam Clerk, please place Resolution 111 at the end of the first reading of resolutions calendar.
So noted.
First reading of resolutions in reference to committee.
Resolution 109, recognizing the Osage Nation Sugarloaf Mound Preservation Plan.
Alderwoman from the 8th, you're recognized to approach the dais. Or actually, no, I'm going to have you make your motion and then approach the dais.
Madam President, I'd like to request unanimous consent for Resolution 1.
Hearing no objection, you may proceed. You need to move for adoption.
Madam President, I'd like to move to adopt Resolution. Thank
It's
you.
been moved by the Alderwoman from the 8th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we adopt resolution number 109. Alderwoman, you may now approach the dais with your special guests. And Mayor Spencer, come on up as well.
Madam President, members of the board, today we pause in our deliberations to recognize a historic moment, the City of St. Louis's first public acknowledgement of the sovereignty of the Osage Nation with ancestral rights to a sacred site in the 8th Ward. The story behind this one is one of preservation and partnership, and one that ties our city to its deepest history and uplifts a nation whose ancestors built this land. The Osage Nation, working closely with its Historic Preservation Office, led the effort to protect and preserve the Sugarloaf Mound, the last intact mound and the oldest man-made structure in the city of St. Louis. Once known as Mound City, our home had once had more than 100 such sacred sites. Today, only the Sugarloaf Mound remains. In recent years, that history has been honored in new ways. St. Louis resident Joan Heckenberg and the Kappa Psi St. Louis graduate chapter made the courageous decision to transfer their home on the mound to the Osage Nation. And their generosity allows the nation to move forward with plans for an interpretive center and long-term preservation. I want to especially recognize Dr. Andrea Hunter of the Osage Nation Historic Preservation Office, whose vision and collaboration made this possible, along with Sarah O'Donnell, who joins us today, and whose work ensures federal protections are upheld, and the artists and the organizers who help bring new life to this mound through its projects. We are also honored with us today to have Osage elder and artist Norman Akers, who will receive this resolution on behalf of the Osage Nation. Norman, your presence reminds us that this is not just about land, it's about its people, culture, and the living history of the Osage Nation. While I have the honor of bringing light to this historic moment, I want to be clear that this work took the efforts of many who predate me. I want to recognize all of the people, including Counterpublic, who helped make this work possible, and along with Madam Mayor Kara Spencer, who was then former Alderwoman, for her early sponsorship of this resolution and work. I'd also like to acknowledge the work of then Mayor Tashara Jones for her public leadership and publicly acknowledging this moment when it occurred. This resolution is more than ceremonial. It's a recognition of the sovereignty of a nation and a justice long delayed, and for our shared responsibility as a city to preserve and acknowledge true history with honesty and respect.
Good morning, Board of Aldermen. Thank you for the opportunity to come and address you all this morning, having a windy morning up here at the dais. It brings me so much joy to be here in the Board of Aldermen to recognize and celebrate that Sugarloaf Mounds is now in the hands of the Osage Nation, and that the Osage Nation Historic Preservation Office is working to preserve the culture of the Osage Nation and this mound, and ensuring that knowledge lives on and is shared. We came much too close to this important piece of history being lost forever, but that fate has now been averted thanks to the continuing efforts of the Osage Nation and many here in St. Louis who have been supporting those calls for action. Everyone who calls this region home today should know and understand that the city of St. Louis is on the traditional and ancestral territory of the Osage, who have stewarded this land for generations and constructed more than 100 mounds before European settlers arrived and ultimately tore down all of the mounds in the city of St. Louis except for this one. That destruction and theft of land can never be made right. And I won't claim that we as a city, what we do here today or did with this resolution last year or in the support that we are offering here at this moment, can come close to scratching the surface of repaying those debts, but is with my full support that the City of St. Louis today officially recognizes the sovereignty of the Osage Nation and supports Sugarloaf Mound Preservation Plan. And as mayor, I am pleased to officially proclaim today as Sugarloaf Mound Preservation Plan Day. It is critical to preserve Sugarloaf Mound and what it represents, so I would like to thank the Osage Nation Historic Preservation Office, Joan Hickenberg, who was very generous with her time with me on her property, showing me her home, who has agreed to transfer her home on Sugarloaf Mound to the Osage Nations, as well as Kappa Psi, their Kappa Psi St. Louis graduate chapter, which transferred its property as well. I also want to thank Counter Public for their help and their leadership and championship of this issue, and in transferring and stewarding those properties. Of course, Alderwoman Jamie Cox Antwi, former Mayor Tashara Jones, and the Board of Aldermen for passing this resolution today. The City of St. Louis cannot undo the tremendous damage that has been done, but we would like to be a partner moving forward, and we look forward to seeing the site become the interpretive center at Sugarloaf Mound, ensuring that the Osage history and their future is secured here in the City of St. Louis.
Again, I want to thank the aldermen of St. Louis, the mayor, Counter Public, Joan Heckenberg, Kappa Phi, for again kind of making this possible. As said, it's so important that Osage and Indigenous people being recognized, for their ancestral homelands, and this is part of that. But again, many thanks, from the Osage Nation, the Osage Historic Preservation Office, and Osage people. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Thank you, Alderwoman Auntie Cox Antwi, for continuing this elevation and this advocacy in the unique way that we can down here as the Board of Aldermen. Thank you, Mayor Spencer. And thank you and all of you all in the galley for all of the work you do. We clearly stand down here and continue support. And with that, I would like to ask if we can now move this resolution in bank.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we make resolution number 109 in bank. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That means that every single member of the Board of Aldermen has now signed on as a co-sponsor of this resolution. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, then it has been moved by the Alderwoman from the 8th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we adopt resolution number 109. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 109 has officially been adopted. And if you would like to join the Board of Aldermen and the mayor over on the steps here, we'll all take a picture together.
It doesn't have his name on it. All right, Kodak moments there. Way to go. Whoa, sorry. Alderwoman.
Madam Clerk, we will continue with the first reading resolutions and reference to.
Resolution 108, introduced by Alderwoman Velazquez, urging Congress to establish an end date for the Puerto Rico Financial Oversight and Management Board.
Alderwoman from the 6th, you are recognized on the first reading of Resolution 108.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to request unanimous consent.
Hearing no objection, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like for the board to adopt this resolution. I know we don't often take up things about Puerto Rico. We have in the past. You want me to move for adoption first?
Yes, make a motion to adopt.
Thank you. Madam President, I would like to move to adopt Resolution 108.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 6th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we adopt Resolution 108. Alderwoman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President. Resolution 108 is about La Junta, also known as the Fiscal Oversight Board in Puerto Rico. As you know, Puerto Rico has no representation in Congress. They are a non-voting, they do not have a voting member of Congress. Since Hurricane Maria, things have gotten really bad across the island because of the colonial nature. They are not allowed to declare bankruptcy. They had a $70 billion in debt. Imagine that. And because they're not a country, they were not allowed to have help like Greece with the IMF. So because of that, Congress, again, Puerto Ricans on the island do not vote for president. They do not have a voting member in Congress. Congress passed a fiscal oversight board by the legislature. And since the Fiscal Oversight Board, or La Junta, has been in place, they've closed 250 schools. They've halved the budget for the university system. They cut pensions for public employees, including teachers' employees, by 8.5%. And since they don't have a voice, one way that, as a proud diasporican, one thing I can do is elevate it. So that's what I'm doing here today. Oddly enough, St. Louis and Puerto Rico may share a lot of things in common. I know that one of the things that we here as legislators have dealt with is the issue of preemption and everything from plastic bags to police to minimum wage. Think about having an oversight board that takes half your budget, can meet in secret, and can override your laws. So in addition to that, the board has pushed privatizing most of the public utilities. They did move to privatize their electric utility, which you may have heard. They have more blackouts than any other place. They pay, their electric bills are 90% higher than 292 metro areas in the entire U.S. And so we passed a resolution last week standing with our residents for their utility bills. So in the spirit of both the people and in the spirit of democracy, I ask that this body adopt Resolution 108.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 12th.
Madam President, members of the board, I hear a lot of what the Alderwoman from the 6th is saying. I do think this is a really important resolution. I do not believe that it should be passed from the floor without a hearing. If it is not going to be sent to the committee for a hearing, then I will be a present vote because I don't know enough about this. I don't like it. It's not just Puerto Rico. I don't like it for Washington, D.C. I don't like it for other territories that we have that are not allowed their full constitutional rights, although they belong to America. So I'm not opposed to this. I just need to know more about it, and I don't have enough information to vote on it, and I'll be a present vote if we're taking it today. I will not be supporting it. And I suggest that we should send this to committee to have a full hearing about what this means and what's going on.
Any further discussion? Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Madam Clerk, please make note of that. Alderwoman from the 7th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I wanted to thank Alderwoman Velasquez for bringing this forward. This is certainly not a topic that I'm an expert on at all, but I've certainly learned a lot more. And when I was working on the resolution for Ameren, was really looking into utility rates, and I did find all of the information that was referenced about them having the highest electric bills in the country, a lot of the negative effects of like a lot of their industries being privatized. I certainly have a lot more to learn, and I think these are great educational moments. And I think as a city, as a state, as a country, we can really, in some ways, some of the worst ways that political power can be used has been demonstrated there, and we could learn some lessons, because in some ways I think our country may be headed in similar directions. So thank you for bringing this forward, and I would also like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Madam Clerk, please make note of that, and please add me as a co-sponsor as well.
So noted.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 10th would like to be added as a co-sponsor too. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 6th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we adopt resolution number 108. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Devotie. Alderwoman Velasquez. Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Cox Antwi. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus.
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. 13 aye votes and 1 voted present.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 6th to adopt resolution.
Resolution 111, sponsored by Alderwoman Schweitzer, affirming support of Executive Order 92, directing the establishment of the clear regulations on data centers.
Alderwoman from the 1st, you are recognized on the first reading of Resolution 111.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move to send this resolution to the Public Infrastructure and Utilities Committee.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 1st, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we send Resolution 111 to the Public Utilities and Infrastructure Committee. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's the extent of first reading of resolutions and reference to committee.
Introduction of honored guests. Any introduction of honored guests? Alderwoman from the 10th.
I couldn't get to this microphone fast enough. My honor, well, I have three. Let me start off with, I saw my former colleague who I have the honor of pleasure of serving as her Alder lady now, Alderwoman Heather Navarro was in the galley earlier. I want to say absolutely. Yes. Hey, she wasn't still here. And then I want to say happy birthday to one of our amazing co-workers here down at the City of St. Louis in the Streets Department, Ms. Paula Hemphill. If you've ever been down to the Streets Department to follow up on anything or even get permits or street blocking signs or anything, she is the most amazing spirit and beautiful smile that you see when you first come in. So happy birthday, Paula Hemphill. Enjoy your day, sis. I know you will. And then the biggest guest I have today is my grandbaby. Ami baby is about to turn 1 year old. I cannot wait. I pray for traveling grace for my family. Ayana and Bobby, we cannot wait to get there and celebrate and love on Ami as we move her now into past her first year of life and into the rest of her life. We love you all so much. So happy birthday, Ami baby, from your Alder granny. I love you. I can't wait to see you.
Alderwoman from the 11th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. We have a new term, Alder Granny. Thank you. I dig that. I dig that. Awesome. Awesome. So my honored guest today is my brother, Wayne McElrath, who recently celebrated his 56th birthday. Wayne formerly served under the Obama administration as the Director of Government Accountability in Washington, D.C. He is retired now and living and working in Dubai. Additionally, I would like to ask for a moment of silence for a former St. Louis Public Schools principal who died just a few days ago. Today, she's supposed to be traveling, going on a trip, and God said different. And so Carol P. Johnson, who was a former special needs teacher at Farragut Elementary School and ascended to the office of principal at Bryan Hill. She was my boss at Bryan Hill, and I am so very grateful for the opportunity to teach under her leadership in St. Louis Public Schools.
We could please stand and bow our heads for a moment of silence.
Thank you.
Any further introduction of honored guests? Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. As my honored guest today, I would like to have all the staff and volunteer members that work at CARE STL. This week, myself, Alderman Devotee, and Alderwoman Clark Hubbard had the opportunity to go visit CARE STL and see all the great work that they do. And on top of it, they have just such a wonderful volunteer staff that are taking care of so many animals that need a little bit of love, from cats and dogs. And they're doing the work. And with that, I also want to introduce, I guess I'll be Alder Dog Daddy, a new member of my family, King Boo, that we actually adopted from CARE STL this past week. So please spread the word. There's so many animals out there that need home, that need some love, and CARE STL is doing the work. They are one of the vendors here in the city of St. Louis that actually work in partnership with the city. Per our charter, we must have a shelter, and they're doing great work. So thank you to all the staff and volunteers at CARE STL.
Alderwoman from the 8th.
Thank you, Madam President. In addition to the representatives of the Osage Nation and also representatives from the Historic Preservation Office, we also had a number of gallery today from Counterpublic, as well as a number of the artists involved in the preservation plan. So I wanted to recognize them as our honored guests as well today.
Thank you. Any further introduction of honored guests? Alderwoman from the 6th.
Thank you, Madam President. I have two honored guests, Clint from Leuna and Patrick Brown from Ameren. Hello. Thank you for being here.
Any further introduction of honored guests? Further introduction of honored guests? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 7th.
Sorry. probably going to kill me for doing this, but I'm going to have Aaron Banks as my honored guest. He is here on a photo assignment, but a fun note about Aaron is also, in addition to being an attorney, was a photographer that took a lot of photos during Ferguson protests and social justice movements here in St. Louis. So I just want to give a shout out to him and thank him. I've known him for a long time, and he also helped mentor me and definitely is responsible for me being able to be an activist and a college student and getting a degree at the same time. So thank you.
Any further introduction of honored guests? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the approval of the minutes from Friday, September 12th, 2025.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we approve the minutes from Friday, September 12th, 2025.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we approve the minutes from Friday, September 12th, 2025. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Report of city officials.
Report of city officials can be found in A, B, C, and D of the agenda and has been placed in the Google Drive for your review. Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individual for reappointment to the Missouri History Museum Subdistrict Advisory Board. The appointment of Dave Leipholtz. I respectfully request your approval of this appointment. Sincerely, Kara Spencer, Mayor.
Alderman from the 2nd, you are recognized on Mayor Spencer's appointment to the Missouri History Museum Subdistrict Advisory.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'd like to refer this to the Health and Human Development Committee.
Is there a second? Second. It's been moved by the Alderman from the 2nd, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 11th, that we send Mayor Spencer's appointment to the Health and Human Development Committee. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individuals for appointment to the Tower Grove South Concerned Citizens Special Business District. The reappointment of Deborah Cohen and the appointment of Kimberly Thompson. I respect your approval of this appointment. Sincerely, Kara Spencer, Mayor.
Alderwoman from the 6th, you are recognized on Mayor Spencer's appointments to the Tower Grove South Concerned Citizens Special Business District.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask that we appoint these two to the Tower Grove Concerned Citizens Special Business District.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 6th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we approve Mayor Spencer's appointments to the Tower Grove South Concerned Citizens Special Business District. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
That's the extent of report of city officials.
Does anyone wish to take any bills or resolutions off of any of our informal calendars? Anyone wish to take any bills or resolutions off any of our informal calendars? Seeing none, first reading of board bills.
Board Bill 67, sponsored by Alderman Brownie, pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, an ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic in the 9th Ward. Board Bill 68, sponsored by Alderman Brownie, an ordinance renewing the previous blighting determination made by ordinance number 66847 and ordinance number 66985, and as renewed by ordinance number 68754 and ordinance number 70119 and ordinance number 71214 for the Cortex West redevelopment area, such as Cortex West Redevelopment Corporation can continue to exercise its rights to use eminent domain granted by the city to complete the redevelopment plan. Board Bill 69, sponsored by Alderman Orion, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 70800 to establish the rules and conduct pertaining to inspections and inspector qualifications regarding heating, boilers, pressure vessels, and steam generators in accordance with the National Board Inspection Code. Board Bill 70, sponsored by Alderman Aldridge, pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, the Director of Streets is hereby directed to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on certain blocks in the 14th Ward. Board Bill 71, sponsored by Alderman Oldenburg, pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, An ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic in various blocks in the Second Ward. Board Bill 72, sponsored by Alderman Oldenburg, an ordinance authorizing the honorary street name Brian McKenna Way pursuant to ordinance number 68937, which shall begin at the intersection of Children's and Nottingham Street and run east on Nottingham Street to the intersection of Tam Avenue and Nottingham Street. That's the extent of first reading of board bills.
Madam Clerk, if you could please add me as a co-sponsor to Board Bill 69.
So noted.
Reference to Committee of Board Bills.
To Public Infrastructure and Utilities Committee, Board Bill 67, 70, 71, and 72. To the HUD's Committee, Board Bill 68, and to Public Infrastructure, Board Bill 69. That's the extent of reference to Committee of Board Bills.
Second reading and report of standing committees.
We have none.
Can dispense with line item 14, report of special committees.
We have none.
Can dispense with line item 15, board bills for perfection consent.
Board Bill 39, Committee Sub, sponsored by Alderman Aldridge and President Green. An ordinance approving a redevelopment plan dated June 9, 2025, and blighting study for the 200 South 11th Street area in the city of St. Louis.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adopt the board bills for the perfection consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I move that we adopt the board bills for perfection consent calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we adopt the board bills for the perfection consent calendar. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Board bills for perfection.
Board Bill 60, sponsored by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, President Green, Alderwoman Velasquez, Alderman Cone, Alderwoman Keys, Alderwoman Schweitzer, Alderwoman Sanier, Alderman Browning, and Alderman Aldridge. An ordinance recommended by the Planning Commission amending Chapter 26 of the Zoning Code, defining, permitting, and regulating accessory dwelling units, and containing a severability and an emergency clause.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the perfection of Board Bill 60.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I move that we perfect Board Bill 60.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 11th, that we perfect Board Bill 60. Alderwoman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. We've had so much discussion over this tool that we will now be able to offer our residents, just reducing barriers, streamlining the process for neighbors, our constituents, to be able to take advantage of accessory dwelling units and the opportunity that comes with accessory dwelling units. I want to thank now for 2 years the people that have answered every call, answered every question, taught me so much through the planning division, the zoning division, AARP, the Realtors Association, so many advocates and community that have reached out through social media and through my office as well, engaged and encouraged, but also excited about this opportunity. Now more than ever, as we are recovering and rebuilding here in the city of St. Louis, I literally called Miriam Keller at the planning division after we passed this in-bank out of committee and told her that I met a constituent who was late 60s, literally now living in his garage because of the damage to his home in the tornado, trying to finagle how he can make that his home as he tries to process how he can either rebuild or maybe demolish his primary home. So having this, again, as a tool and a resource that he can leverage and move forward and be able to make that comfortable until he's in a better position to be able to make the decision on his home, is the reason why we do stuff like this. So who knew in 2023 when I first ambitiously introduced this resolution, thanks to the people that trusted me with it, that it would take this kind of time to come now at the right time and us to be able to pull it through. So with that, I'll renew my motion that we perfect Board Bill 60 and be open to answering questions from some of my colleagues. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. First, I want to commend the Alderwoman for her work on this. I know it's been ongoing for quite some time. And I do believe that we need regulations surrounding accessory dwelling units. I think that they're really useful for people who want to, say, have their parents live with them as their parents get older, have family members stay with them and still have some privacy. I am opposed to this bill right now for one simple reason, and I think it's because in some areas we're going to see a real proliferation of short-term rental with people building ADUs strictly to use as short-term rentals, and that's been such a concern in my neighborhood and neighborhoods similar to mine. I addressed this with the sponsor, and it just doesn't seem like it was feasible to carve out short-term rentals in this. But that's the only issue I have with it, and I thank her for her work, but I'll be a no on it today.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 12th.
Madam President, members of the board, if the alderman from the 4th would yield.
The alderman from the 4th yields. Questioning for the alderwoman from the 12th.
Absolutely.
Alderwoman, you may proceed.
Good morning, Alderman. If my memory is not failing me, didn't you sponsor the short-term rental?
I did.
Legislation?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And now you're having problems with it, or just problems in certain parts of the community? I just want to figure that out, because we certainly have a lot of problems since you sponsored the short-term rental that we didn't used to have.
Absolutely. So short-term rentals before that time were happening. They were unregulated completely, which was a problem. So that board bill sought to put in some regulation. Since then, it's been held up in court while there's litigation ongoing. There's a temporary restraining order on it. So we're still in the Wild West concerning short-term rentals, and I really hesitate to take action that's going to increase the number of potentially increase the number of short-term rentals in a completely unregulated environment.
So, short-term rentals could, as I understand it, could always exist anyway. Okay, we just kind of brought them up to light because people could always rent their properties out for a month-to-month tenants or short-term rentals. Isn't that correct?
No, short-term rentals were specifically designed as less B&B type situation.
Okay, but if you're 29 days, okay, but pretty much to me, less than 30 days or 30 days is a short-term rental. Most people don't do a month. Okay, so
we just had it defined that way in the ordinance.
Right. Well, I'm just laughing because before that we didn't have people that were so aware of it, and now since they actually do have and I know they took it to court, is that there are a lot of problems existing where people are doing them that they didn't used to. And I think we brought light something that maybe sometimes you shine light and the roaches all run or they gather. So I'm not a fan of short-term rentals. We've had all kind of problems. We have parking problems now and other things. But I am a fan of this particular legislation. And I know for a lot of people, when parents have to come to live with them, I've known people who built an addition onto their house with an extra entrance so that their parents could have their own interests. I know that people in my own family, my husband's grandparents made a garage many years ago into a house because they owned a 4-family, and that gave them the ability to live in the garage, and then their other family members lived in the 4-family. I do understand your concern about it. And why don't you think that we could regulate, if we ever get the short-term rental out of court, that there wouldn't be a reason that we could regulate that they could not be used for short-term rental? Is there some concern that I don't understand, perhaps?
I believe from talking to the sponsor, the concern was that everything would have to go back through planning in order to carve out those short-term rentals. And this is years in the making now. And so to hit reset wasn't something that the sponsor was willing to do, and I understand that. But as a result of that, I just can't support this, even though I do agree with you. I've seen this type of unit be really useful for people to keep family members nearby as they age and issues like that. But what I don't want to see happen is a bunch of people who have their houses paid off pop up a shack on it and charge hundreds of dollars a night, and we have twice the density in single family A residential areas.
And so I guess I disagree a little bit with the sponsor. One of the people on the planning commission is my spouse. And we've been talking about this for a long time. And I do think we can come back and regulate. I think we're going to have to anyway with short-term rentals, because the whole thing with short-term rentals, I don't think what you talked about, maybe you alluded to, that people didn't bring into the fact about parking. You could have a short-term rental with 4 or 5 different people, and they all bring cars, which is what we've been seeing in our single-family neighborhoods or blocks or whatever. So I think we're going to have to regulate, even with this, that you will have to go back and put some regulations on who could park, where they have to park, because that's going to be a big problem as we have more short-term rentals on single-family houses. Streets, because before that you knew where to park. I live on a single family street, it's 40 single family homes, so you know not to park in front of your neighbor's house. You got a garage, you got parking pads in the back, but when you start to bring strangers in, that becomes a problem. So I disagree that we can't still regulate that. I think we can build short-term rentals, but we can regulate how they can be used, and we can go back and amend the ordinance. So thank you for your information. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 7th and then after that.
Thank you, Madam President. Board. I just wanted to make sure I put on record, seeing the process of just the ADU conversation, going through Planning Commission. I've just seen Alderwoman Clark Hubbard really push this conversation strongly for the last 2 years, so I would not feel right just not getting up and acknowledge that. I've seen her just have conversations across the way. I know that this conversation has led to other conversations about kind of talking about the format of the Planning Commission, so I just really wanted to acknowledge Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard for sticking with this to follow it through. She and I have had the opportunity to talk to many folks about the idea of ADU. But I also would say that I think the interest of ADUs has even increased since the tornado. I think right now a lot of people are looking for diverse forms of housing in many ways that we can fill this gap, because we know that there are thousands of people right now who are displaced and are out of context and looking for places to go. And so I definitely commend her for her work on this bill. I commend the city for working on diverse and creative ways that we can utilize space we have for housing. And I think this is the right time and the moment to do this, and I'm excited to see this move forward and happy to be a co-sponsor on this bill.
Thank you. Alderwoman from the 8th.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to also acknowledge the work of the Alderwoman from the 10th for this work on this bill. Even though I know a lot of it predates me, in the 8th Ward, I have seen a lot of the benefit of ADUs, given the historic footprint of a lot of my neighborhoods. And I know from my constituents, they can be very beneficial for many of the things that the Alderwoman acknowledged. So I would like to request to be added as a co-sponsor to this bill and express my support for it.
Madam Clerk, please make note of that. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 6th.
Thank you, Madam President. I also just want to echo my support for the Alderlady from the 10th. I am already a co-sponsor on this bill. I think we do have a housing shortage, and definitely an affordable housing shortage, and we know that we need to do a mix of things to address it. I think ADUs are one part of doing that. We also need to do a lot of other things, but I think this is one way that we tackle that. So I appreciate and am grateful for Alderwoman Clark Hubbard's leadership on this and her tenacity for sticking with a tough subject for at least a year. So thank you. 2 years.
Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you. Will the Alderman from the 4th yield for questions?
The Alderman from the 4th yields questioning to the Alderman from the 14th. Alderman, you may proceed.
Thank you so much, Madam President. Just one quick question. I do hear, and I know you have been, kind of against the short-term rentals for a while. If a ward was building housing, say about 30 or 40 homes, out of those 40 homes, 10 of them could be short-term rentals as well, right?
Right now, since there's a temporary restraining order on the ordinance regulating short-term rentals, 40 of them could be short-term rentals.
So would you support in the future any alderpersons bill for development when it comes to housing until we figure out with the short-term rental? Because, I mean, if in your argument, anything we build in the city could be a short-term rental, which you would not support.
I think this is particularly something that what I'm taking into consideration here is density in single-family A areas where we're already seeing complaints regarding short-term rentals increasing the density, and that's my real issue here.
Okay. I could just see a situation where homes are being built in single-family A area, maybe in the 11th or the 10th or the 12th, where people come in and say, we're going to build 30, 40 homes, and in your analogy of it, that out of those 40 or 30, any of them would be or could be short-term rentals. So I'm just curious of where's the line of, development that you wouldn't support because of potential of short-term rentals coming to bring more housing. I think we need more housing in the city of St. Louis. We need more people to come here in population. So I get your concern, but I think at the same time that could go for just development in any ward when it comes to outside of ADUs, just housing in general.
Sure, and I think if you were to look at my record, you'd see that I've virtually 100% of the time opposed any incentives on single-family houses.
Gotcha. Okay. To speak on the bill.
Alderman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I just want to echo a lot of the sentiments and comments that was made by my colleagues to just thank the Alderwoman from the 10th Ward on her work on this. If you go back and you watch the HUD's committee or the planning and zoning, like she said, there was a lot of information, a lot of thought process. There was a lot of questions that like the Alderwoman from the 11th asked, just like how this will work. And I think it was very robust to, especially in this time where we're trying to figure out in North St. Louis after the tornado, how do we make sure that, people can stay in their homes or stay on their property. Actually was at a friend's house who's in the gallery. I won't say his name, but, almost have this kind of ADU in the back of his home that is really neat and is really cool, where people that can continue to build on their property as they're trying to figure out how do they expand their bigger property. So to the Alderwoman, but also to planning and zoning that have put in tireless work over the last 3 years around this. Thank you for your leadership, and I look forward to supporting this piece of legislation today.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized to close.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I renew my motion.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 11th, that we perfect Board Bill 60. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Devoti. Alderwoman Velasquez. Alderwoman Sanye.
Aye.
Alderwoman Cox Antwi. Alderman Browning. Aye. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. 13 aye votes and 1 no vote.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 10th to perfect Board Bill 60. Report of engrossment.
Board Bill 19, floor sub, and Board Bill 33 as amended in committee.
Third reading and final passage of board bills consent.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 19. Third reading and final passage of board bills.
Board Bill 19, floor sub, introduced by Alderman Aldridge, an ordinance approving a petition of an owner of certain real property to establish a community improvement district, establishing the Jefferson Arms Community Improvement District, finding a public purpose for the establishment of the Jefferson Arms Community Improvement District, containing an emergency and a severability clause.
Alderman from the 14th, you are recognized on the third reading and final passage of Board Bill 19, floor substitute.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move to third read and finally pass Board Bill
19, floor
19 as amended, or
Floor
19 floor substitute.
It's been moved by the 14th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 19, floor substitute. Alderman, you may proceed.
I close.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderwoman from, okay, no. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Devote. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Cox Antwi. I'm sorry, you say pass? Thank you. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman, thank you. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge.
Pass.
President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Cox Antwi. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge.
Aye.
12 aye votes. I'm sorry, 13 aye votes and 1 no vote.
By your vote, you've sustained the motion from the Alderman from the 14th to third read and finally pass Board Bill 19, floor substitute.
Board Bill 33 as amended in committee, sponsored by Alderman Devote, Alderman Narayan, Alderman Oldenburg, and Alderman Browning. An ordinance requested by the Sheriff of the City of St. Louis, identifying the powers delegated to the Sheriff while prescribing from the office those activities not specifically provided by the Sheriff of the Missouri Constitution, by the Missouri statute, by the City of St. Louis ordinance, or specifically authorized by the Board of Aldermen.
Alderman from the 5th, you are recognized on the third reading and final passage of Board Bill 33 as amended in committee.
Madam President, members of the board, I move that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 33 as amended in committee.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 5th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 6th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 33 as amended in committee. Alderman, you may proceed.
I will defer. Nothing further to state at this time, Madam President.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 12th.
Madam President, members of the board, I want to first thank the Alderman from the 5th because I asked him to send me the case law that he quoted last time in supporting why, excuse me, the St. Louis City Sheriff had a duty to pick up prisoners and was responsible for doing that. There's no place in the state statute that mandates he do that. There's no place in this case law that he sent me, which I want to cite. 556 Southwest 2D 756, which is Missouri Court of Appeals, State of Missouri versus Ricky Jones defendant. There's nothing that says it. And I want to go on further to say I went online. I knew it didn't say it because we cannot tell the sheriff or any of the other five other county offices. We, the Board of Aldermen, do not have the authority to tell them how their job is or what that should be done. That goes to the state of Missouri. I went online to look at what we had online in the city of St. Louis. They have something called the governance of the city of St. Louis, and they talk about who reports to whom. The sheriff's office, nor the recorder of deeds, nor the circuit attorney, nor the collector of revenue, nor the license collector, nor the treasurer. None of them report to the Board of Aldermen, and nor do we have the ability to dictate to them what their job description is or what is mandated or what they have to do. That is left in the Missouri Revised State Statutes and maybe the Constitution. I want to point out again that on page 2 of 4, at the top of the page, it incorrectly states that Revised Missouri Section 57.290 provides that all sheriffs in the state of Missouri shall take convicted offenders to reception and designation centers as designated by the director of the Department of Correction. That is incorrect. It does not state that. It is that's not what the state statute says. In fact, what I did is to take the human error out of going through this 57.2.9. I ran it through AI. And I did it for AI because I had said last week that this was not about mandating what the sheriff said. The state statute is about mandating what charges could be charged by the sheriff if any of the sheriffs took people to certain places. It is a fee schedule. It is not a mandate of what the sheriff in the city or any other sheriff should do. But more telling is that my conversation with fellow attorneys across the city who watched this and kind of made fun of us and said, Sharon, I don't understand. What's the point? It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that. Neither does the case law. But to bring the point home even more, I received an email Thursday from the sheriff's office and from some other people who advised me that the 22nd Judicial Circuit Court had a meeting in Bank, and that the presiding judge, which is Judge McGraw, had made it clear to Sheriff Montgomery that the sheriff's office needs to focus on the provisions of bailiffs in the courtroom. And that is because that is their primary duty. And that is what I've said all along. That's what they're supposed to do. Anything else that they've done for us over the years is because they have decided that's what they would do. And that was a courtesy. It was never a mandate. And so I got this email that says effective immediately, and it's addressed to the public safety director. Let's see who else is sent to, and to various people throughout the city. And basically it says that Public Safety Director Dace, I'm writing to advise you of a change regarding the handling of unscheduled appointments and emergency hospital runs from the Criminal Justice Center. Effective immediately, the policy of the Sheriff's Office for the City of St. Louis is that we will only transport prisoners for regularly scheduled medical appointments that we have been notified about at least 2 weeks in advance. We can no longer handle unscheduled or emergency medical runs. At this time, the Sheriff's Office does not have sufficient staffing to continue this work, which is not an official duty of the office. It has negatively impacted one of our core duties, which is the provision of bailiffs to the judges of the 22nd Judicial Circuit. That is their core duty. It is not to provide transportation. In this case law that the alderman provided me, and it's funny because it's a case that some prisoners were at then City Hospital Homer G. Phillips, which is now in the 12th Ward, as a senior building. And they broke out. They ran away and got away. And in there's nothing that mandates the sheriff to take them there. The sheriff had taken them there, but it was not a mandate. There's nothing that I could find any place in the state of Missouri, in the state statutes, in anything that says that the sheriff is mandated to take prisoners to, I'll use the word hospitals, because they're not. But they could, and they have done that. And again, we cannot change the law We cannot override state statutes. We cannot override the state constitution. That is something that has to be done at the state level. If that is something that the state legislatures believe that the sheriff should do, they have every right to change that law to say that he has to do it. But along with that, there's going to have to be some money provided for him to do it, and that he has enough people to cover the courts first and then make the transportation. So we can continue to push this, but for the judges to come out and say this the week after we perfected this board bill and we pushed to make it an ordinance doesn't make any sense. It is a mistake. It is the Board of Aldermen not listening to that we don't have that power. And even when we've had the power, and I quoted specifically, and the alderman from the 3rd knows this, is that we actually had power to make a minimum wage law, and we passed it, and people started collecting it, and the state went right up to Jefferson City and took it back and took the money out of people's pockets. But we should not be trying to pass legislation that we don't have the right to. We can suggest that we want the sheriff to do that, but we cannot mandate it, and he does not have to do it, and he is going to follow the judges, which the judges are going to say that their courtrooms are the primary responsibility. And in fact, on our own city functions, what do the county functions do? Under sheriff, it says, provide security for the circuit courts, number one thing, transportation of prisoners between the courts and the detention facilities, not hospitals, serve court papers and eviction notice, and issues jury summons and gun permits. That is the sheriff's duties as outlined in the state statutes. That is it. We cannot do it. And if we can do that, then we also can tell the circuit attorney how to run his office. It used to be the circuit clerk was elected, but both the circuit clerk and the public administrator now are appointed, and they appoint to the judges. But we would be able to tell the circuit attorney, the collector of revenue, which is Greg Daly, the circuit attorney, the license collector, which is Mavis Thompson, the recorder of deeds, which is Michael Butler, and the treasurer, which is Adam Lane. All of those people, we would be able to tell them how to run their office and to issue things that we want them to mandate to do. We can't do that. We can't do it with the sheriff, and we cannot do it with any of the other 6 elected county officers or the 2 county officers that are now appointed and report to the judges. It is a mistake. This piece of legislation is a mistake, and it has an error in it. And it states something that is not said in 57290 revised statutes of the state of Missouri. And I know it has a severability clause, and it has a sunset clause of 12 reports to the Board of Aldermen in accordance with the rules and requirements outlined in this section. That's not going to happen either. And he's going to continue to report to the people who he's supposed to report to. And as an elected official, all of those 6 people who are elected run their own offices, and we are overstepping our boundaries. And I will make sure that I vote no, and I suggest to others that we vote no. For the sheriff, for the courts to come out and tell the sheriff that he makes sure he takes care of the courts first is a message to us, whether we listen or not. Thank you. Having no further statements. I will be voting no.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, Alderman from the 5th, you are recognized to close.
At this time, I move this body to third read and finally pass Board Bill 33 as amended in committee. I would just point out before we vote that beyond what we talked about last week, there are state statutes that address this issue. Section 57.450, which we discussed at length last week, as well as Section 221.040 that we discussed last week. I wish I could talk to you intelligently about this email that was sent to the alderman or forwarded to the alderman from the sheriff's office from the court. I have to admit, I wasn't a party to that, nor was it sent to me, so it's hard for me to comment about something I haven't seen. After consultation, not with AI, but doing the legal research, consultation with the City Councilor's Office, review of state statutes and case law, I am confident that we are on firm ground here. And again, I request your support in finally passing this particular bill.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 5th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 6th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 33 as amended in committee. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Devoti. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Cox Antwi. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus.
No.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. 13 aye votes and 1 no vote.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderman from the 5th to third read and finally pass Board Bill 33 as amended in committee. Reported the finally passed and signed by the President.
Board Bill 19, floor sub, and Board Bill 33 as amended in committee.
All other business being suspended, the President shall in open session affix her signature hereto to the end that these may become law.
See you guys. What a walk of shame. I wouldn't even care.
Second reading resolutions, committee reports, and adoptions.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 23. Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the motion to adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 11th, that we adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar. Is there any discussion? Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor to Resolution 103, 105, and would like to just talk a little bit about Resolution 106. Yesterday, myself and Alderwoman Sanye had the opportunity to see an amazing exhibit at Sophie's Lounge right off of Wash Ave. Christian Blackman is one of those people that is a true gem in the city of St. Louis. She has an exhibit down there that I would ask all my colleagues to go check out. It is called To St. Louis with Love, and it's a hip-hop exhibit and just giving history of all of so many great people that have come out of St. Louis when it comes to hip-hop. It is... She's been putting on exhibits for over 10 years, and I would say this is one of the best ones that I've seen yet. So if you haven't had an opportunity to go down, please go to Sophie's Lounge to be able to see the To St. Louis with Love, because, I mean, it's just exquisite. And I'm so glad that myself, Alderwoman Sanye, President Green, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard signed on as a co-sponsor to just kind of show some appreciation to Christian Blackman, who's been doing amazing work here in the city of St. Louis, and glad we was able to honor her in this way. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, if you could please add Alderman Aldridge as a co-sponsor to, what were those numbers again?
103, 105, and 10. Oh, yeah. So 103 and 105.
Right. And if you could add me to 103 as well.
And Madam Clerk, could we embank Resolution 103? I'd like to make a motion to embank Resolution 103.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 14th.
Objection.
There's been an objection to embanking Resolution 103. So if you would like to be added as a co-sponsor to Resolution 103, if you could please raise your hand, and the clerk can add you to Resolution 103. As of right now, it's Alderwoman Velazquez and myself.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard and Alderman Aldridge and Alderman Narayan.
Okay.
Alderwoman Sanye, Alderman Oldenburg, Alderwoman Key, Alderwoman Cox Answe, Alderman Cone, Alderman Devotie, Alderwoman Schweitzer, and Alderman Browning.
Right. Alderwoman from the 7th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I also wanted to speak to Resolution 106. If you haven't had a chance to go get to see the To St. Louis With Love exhibition, I would strongly encourage you to go. I learned new things about the history of the city of St. Louis and our ties to hip hop. So, of course, I'm sure many of us remember the Mono, that dance started here, and just so much like rich history just walking through it and seeing it, including some folks who are no longer alive and, were with us. I learned that Carla Coffee Wright, that she used to be a rapper and had a label. And I mean, it was just literally all of this history that is so unique and special to St. Louis, and also showed a lot of ties between that and different social movements that we had and how music has played into that. So if you haven't had a chance to go and view that, I would definitely encourage you to. And with that, I would like to make a motion to embank Resolution 106.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman.
Objection, and I'll have a question.
There's been an objection to making Resolution 106 in bank. If you would like to be added to Resolution 106, if you could please raise your hand so that the clerk can add you to the resolution. So I see the 6th, the 11th, the 4th.
Gotcha.
Right, I think that's it. Then Alderwoman from the 12th, did you want to be recognized?
Yes, please. I'm sorry. I thought I had my hand raised. I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, Alderwoman from the 12th, you're recognized.
Thank you. If allowed, I'd like to ask the sponsor of the resolution a little bit more about this resolution. If he would yield, Alderman from the 14th.
Would the Alderman from the 14th yield to questioning from the Alderwoman from the 12th?
Yes.
Alderwoman, you may proceed.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. I don't know a lot about this work, so I was hoping that you could tell me something about it and where it is showing, please.
Okay, as I started off, I said it's showing at Sophie's Lounge off of Wash Ave. It's actually in the elevated 11th Ward. It's very close to about Washington and Graham. It is Sophie's Lounge is a lounge that has a lot of art, and they are a lounge. But in this lounge, when you walk in, when it comes to this exhibit, you will see various photos, like the Alderwoman from the 7th said. They got, for some of us that remember DJ Cut and so many other legendary hip-hop artists, Coffee Wright. Didn't even know that Coffee, once upon a time, had her own record label and was in music. But it's an exhibit that she's giving kind of flowers to people in hip-hop in St. Louis for all the great work that they have done to put St. Louis on the map, from famous folks from Nelly to Chingy to Oops, or some people may know him as Bruce Franks, and just so many others that have really kind of left some positivity in St. Louis when it comes to hip hop.
And so, where is this located near the Triangle at Grand? And did you say Grand in Washington?
It's a little east of Grand in Washington. I don't have the address right off the top of my head, but it's just west of Grand. No, it's east of Graham. Yeah, I would talk to elevated Alderwoman 11. It's east of Graham, just about 2 blocks east from there. It's 1 block from the old KDHX building.
Is it between Jefferson and Graham, someplace
Yep,
in there?
it's between Jefferson and Graham.
Okay, and I don't like all the just everything being bank. I like to know what I'm supporting. I'm not opposed to that, and I don't mind putting my name on it, but I don't like the continuing everything is in bank. We need to know what we're supporting. I do support that, and I would like my name added.
Madam Clerk, please make note of that.
So noted.
Any further discussion on the courtesy resolution consent calendar? Alderman from the 14th.
I will. I think this is one that is that we all can agree with. I would like to make resolution 105 and
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 14th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we make resolution 105 in bank. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That Alderwoman from the 10th, you will, let's see. It has been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderperson from the 11th, that we adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. Motion carries. Miscellaneous and unfinished business.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 25, announcements.
Wednesday, September 24th, 2025, Public Infrastructure and Utilities. We have a hearing in the Kennedy Room at 3:30 p.m. Budget and Public Employee will have a meeting in the Kennedy Room at 6 p.m. Friday, September 26th, 2025, Full Board meeting in the Chambers at 10 a.m. That's the extent of the announcement.
Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Public Safety will be having a meeting at 2 p.m. in the Kennedy Room to take up Board Bill 69 and Board Bill 52. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please make note of that.
I'm sorry, what day was that?
Thursday, 25th.
Don't know that.
Any further announcements? Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I believe the clerk said it, but I need to still send it in writing. But I just want to make it a public announcement that we will have a Budget and Public Employees Committee this Wednesday, September 24th at 6 p.m. in the Kennedy Room to continue our monthly conversations around RAMS fund that is going to tornado impacted areas. Thank you.
Alderwoman from the 10th.
I want to say it again.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. So many things going on. Just a couple I want to. Today is Parking Day, thanks to Treasurer Adam Lane and the work that he had let us partner with him in the 10th Ward in the East Loop with the East Loop SID. We are doing some parking demonstrations for the streetscape project that's coming up. So again, it's Parking Day. Through the Treasurer's Office, you can identify different locations across the city, but one is the 5900 blocks of Delmore. Also tonight is the Balloon Glow in Forest Park, as well as tomorrow's the Balloon Race. This is an amazing family-friendly free event. So make sure, and the weather's going to be great. We're claiming it, so come on out and enjoy that. And on Sunday, it is Porch Fest in Skinker de Bolivar neighborhood. This is also an amazing community building event where porches come. I think there's over 40 porches this year that will be participating with different genres of music, different people coming together from all different walks of life. We're going to have a second line marching through the Skinker de Bolivar neighborhood, so we are looking forward to that. Several other events, but you can always follow me on Facebook, and I'll talk about them afterwards, but I hope to see you all out in community this weekend.
Alderwoman from the 11th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. The Holland Law Firm is pleased to announce the date of their third annual Community Day, scheduled to take place tomorrow, September 20th. This is a public event, and it will be held at the Hub, which is located at 3000 Prairie Avenue. The event begins at 10 and goes until 1. All activities and resources featured at this event will be complimentary. Who doesn't love something that's free? Also, the Beloved Church, I'm sorry, no, I'm going to skip that one. But we're going to go to the Penrose Community Day, which is also tomorrow between 1 and 3 p.m. at the Tink Bradley Park, which is located at 4652 Margaretta Avenue at Marcus Avenue. Of course, we already know about the balloon race, and so let's have a great weekend. We can make it happen.
Thanks. Alderwoman from the 7th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Thank you, Alderwoman Velasquez, for letting me use your mic. I just wanted to re-announce the town hall, but also make the addition that the town hall will now be a joint town hall with myself, Alderwoman Schweitzer, and Alderman Shane Cone. So same event, but again, winter is coming, so we want to make sure that from that 5 to 6 p.m. window where there will be representatives on site to do financial assistance applications with water, MSD, and your utility companies. We want as many people, knowing that winter is coming, to come. So it will be joint. Again, it will be childcare. There will be refreshments. And if you're coming for just the town hall portion, that portion begins at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I forgot I will also make an announcement next week, but want to start getting the word out. On September 27th at 11 a.m. at the O'Fallon Rec Center, myself, Alderwoman Keys, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Alderwoman Jamie Cox Antwi, Alderwoman Sanye, Alderwoman Pam Boyd, and Alderwoman Velasquez will be holding a town hall around the MWBE program in partnership with a lot of our local contractors that have been doing work around MWBE. We know that recently the mayor has paused it, and eventually there will be some future legislation coming up. But before that legislation happens, we actually want to hear from the community and residents. So again, that will be September 27th at 11 a.m. at O'Fallon Rec Center to have a conversation around the MWBE program in the city and the future of what that looks like. Thank you, Madam President.
Alderwoman from the 11th.
I really did try not to have to get up here again, but it was Alderwoman Jameen Clark Hubbard that handed me, and the screen. Hang on just a second. Thank you. So on September 23rd from 9:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. at the O'Fallon Rec Center, located at 4343 West Florissant, Ameren and Spire will be there. This is a part of their tornado relief efforts. Information and assistance is available for Ameren, Spire, City Water, and community partner agencies will be on hand to assist and answer questions. And I promise you, I have no other announcements.
Any further announcements? Any further announcements? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to excuse.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we excuse the Alderwoman from the 13th for necessary absence, as well as keep her and her family in our prayers.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we excuse the Alderperson from the 13th for necessary absence. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adjourn until Friday, September 6, 2025, in the Board of Aldermen chambers at 10 a.m.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 11th, that we adjourn until Friday, September 6, 2025, in the Board of Aldermen chambers at 10 a.m. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Thank you. I appreciate you.